Hello, everybody. My name is Fernando Alday. I'm the host of the Leaps of Insight podcast. This show is about the path for growth. It's for people who are looking for their true selves. We are here to support you and also to challenge you with new perspectives and new ways of being in the world. Enjoy. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 2 of the Leaps of Insight podcast. Today, we have the honor and the great fortune to have with us Melanie Schwank. Welcome, Melanie.
Hi, thank you.
Nice to see you again today.
Very excited to be here.
All right, let's start. What's your reason for waking up in the morning? What do you do for a living?
Okay, waking up in the morning. I'm an early bird, I think, and I love mornings. I love to see the sunrise and to take some time for myself, just meditating. So I think that's a big calling in the morning. And I'm a psychologist, a yoga teacher, creative arts lover. So I try to blend everything together and make it part of my life and my work.
Wow. And as you wake up, the first thing you do is meditate?
No, the first thing I do, they're called kriyas, and it's cleansing. So I wash my face, I do the tongue scraping, and then I drink water with lemon or with apple cider vinegar, and then I meditate.
Yeah, I love it. I love to hear the details about your morning routine.
Yeah.
Kriyas, that's Sanskrit, right?
Yes.
Yes, and as a yoga teacher, you know your Sanskrit words and things like that from teaching, or is that something you have picked up?
No, when you start your yoga teacher training, they teach you some of it, and then as you progress, you learn a lot more. And when you get into all of the practices and the philosophy, then you get to learn lots of words. I don't know all of them, but I know most. No, not most of them. I know many.
Many, yes. There's always a lot to learn yet, right? Yes. Okay. So about meditation, how long have you been doing meditation daily or at least constantly?
Yes. I don't know how long. I think I found a new definition of meditation because before I used to think about meditation, you have to sit there and clear your mind of thoughts. And that was very difficult for me because my mind is very active. But I had a really easy time being with myself in silence. So what I've learned is that you can meditate in many different ways. You can meditate, I call it active meditation. So it's doing something or just sitting in silence and watching your breath. So that's what I do in the mornings, watch my breath. But then during the day, I sometimes meditate a lot while I'm doing other things because I'm very crafty and I like to use my hands. So I like to be in silence with my thoughts, maybe some background music and just breathing and creating. And I think that's meditation also.
Absolutely. It's mindful creation, right?
Yes.
Yes. And so your work is basically, that's the beginning of your day. And then when you start working, there's stuff that you do on your own, as you just said, that you're creating and bringing into the world. What kind of things do you do?
I do many things. I like to cook. And when I cook, I like to make it look pretty and special and take my time, make it tasty. So that's like work of art and meditation and like placing an intention to what I'm about to eat. So that's one. And then I do jewelry. I do malas. They're for meditating also, and bracelets and all types of jewelry. I paint and do art journaling and yoga. I think it's also a form of meditation and art that I sometimes do. Maybe I'm working and then I have a backache from being sitting down so much time. So I just like take a couple of minutes to stretch and make it better. Yes, that kind of things. Or maybe go into nature and just find treasures. I like to call them treasures because you are walking and then you see a nice rock or leaves that you can save up. So I'm always trying to see what I can incorporate into my life from the world.
Wow, it seems like your life is very coherent, that there is a string that goes through everything that you do, and it starts with what you do as you wake up. And every day there is something like this that you do, you discover and you create, and you're always in a meditational kind of state. Uh, is there are there days when you're not living this way? Is there something that
Yes, every
happens?
day, I think. I try to be in a meditation state, but I'm very stressed also. I'm kind of a perfectionist and I like to do things. When I do them, I like to do them well. So I do stress a lot, and meditation has helped that. But my nervous system is usually very active, and I have to work on bringing it down and calming it down. So yes, I get very stressed every day.
So it's the old fight or flight system that comes into place, and then
Yes.
what you do, it helps you regulate down towards the rest and digest. Okay. How did I mean? This is all very interesting. How did you get started in this path? Because it seems like you know what to do when stress happens, but it happens to all of us, and you know what to do when it arrives. And so, how did you learn this?
Well, different events in my life made me more anxious. I've always been very anxious. Ever since I was a little girl, I remember having some days I didn't know why, but I wanted to cry and I was feeling like something bad was going to happen. So I've always felt that anxiety. And I was very nervous also, like talking in public and connecting with people was very hard for me. So when I was in the university, I used to get so nervous when I had to present something or talk in front of people. And I used to get red and shaky, and my voice was very like crumbly. And when I went to study out from, ¿cómo se dice? Abroad, I learned, I don't know if I learned, like yoga taught me how to calm myself. And I wasn't expecting that. I never thought I would go in so deep into yoga until I was abroad. I used to be very active and I wanted to do exercises like more dynamic. And living abroad, I had no chance of doing that. And I had a yoga studio right below my house. So I went into the yoga studio and there was one teacher, she taught Ashtanga, and I fell in love. So I continued and continued and continued. And when I got back to Guatemala, I was like, okay, I need to keep on doing that. So I found a couple of shalas here and started to go there. But then I wanted to go deeper. So I did my teacher trainings. And it was in my teacher trainings where I learned how to breathe and how to calm my mind and how to use movement to relax all of the thoughts and all of the feelings that were going on inside of me all of the time. And teaching made it even better because the first time I taught, it was supposed to be an hour-long class. And I was so nervous, so nervous. It lasted 30 minutes. And I was like, I can't keep them in Shavasana for another 30 minutes. So I had to end it. And when I got out, one of the owners was like, what happened? It's only been 30 minutes. I'm like, sorry, I don't know. It was too fast and I had to end it. But after that, I started to find that calm and that voice inside of me that wanted to speak, that wanted to be heard, and that had a lot to say. So I think practice made it easier. And now I can say I still get nervous, but I can breathe through it. So breath is magic.
Wow, there's a lot that you said there,
I know.
and I want to go through all the steps. And like the first thing you said, that
Mm-hmm.
there was a weakness in you that you recognized about being anxious
Mm.
and about being nervous and things like this. But then you found yoga. And as they say, when the student is ready, the teacher comes.
Mm-hmm.
And you turned something that was a weakness, or at least you could have interpreted as your own weakness, and you made it a strength. And now you found that it was not enough, and then you started teaching. And that first, I mean, I can relate with the first time that you arrived at a yoga shop. I mean, not everybody lives next door to a shala, I should say, not a shop. but it's kind of intimidating the first time because
Mm-hmm.
everybody looks like an expert. Everybody knows what they're doing. I saw in the first time I saw it, I saw pictures on the wall of people with their feet all over, and my body can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start where you are,
Mm-hmm.
and then the road you create it as you walk, and then you keep going. So I think that part was very inspiring. I love how you took that part and you made it like a superpower of yours, and now you are teaching, and you started rushing yoga, but now it doesn't seem like you're doing that. So tell me about your evolution as a yoga teacher.
Okay. I think I've got lucky because my mom is also a yoga teacher. So I heard about yoga and I tried yoga before I went into, you know, really going into yoga. So I had tried it before. And naturally, I am very flexible. It wasn't so hard, the flexibility part, but I wasn't so strong. So I had to build up strength. And I think one of the most important parts about yoga is they teach you it's your own process. It's not maybe you're in a class with many others, but it's you on your mat and you don't have to worry about what the other people are doing or what you should be doing. You just have to worry about how you are feeling your yoga class. So that made it easier. And there was no comparison or that idea of I have to do that or be that. It sometimes came to my mind. I was like, I want to do that. But I learned that it's not about comparing yourself, it's about admiring the person you are wanting to become or that person you see and you say, I want to do that someday. So when you admire, you start to incorporate the qualities and the values that the other person has instead of devaluing yourself because you are not that. So when you admire, comparison dissolves. It ceases to exist. And that's a big teaching of yoga. That's how I've evolved into what I can do now. I used to think people were aliens, like people who did things on their hands, on their feet, with their bodies. I was like, how do they do that? Is it even possible? And consistency, practice, believing, and breath taught me that anything is possible. And maybe it's not right away, but it will happen if you keep on doing it. And maybe not the same as what you were expecting, but what your body allows. So it's very much to be in connection with your mind and body and trust that it will get there.
Yeah, so that's a very important message for people who are trying to, um, who are looking at Mel's platform and thinking, should I go in? Should I study with her? And that's something that is very important. The process is completely customized to everybody, right?
Exactly.
And speaking about your platform, I mean, I think you teach yoga personally, but also through a digital platform. So tell us about that.
Yes, so that's new. Before I used to teach only in shalas, then I started teaching private, but then I had no more time left in my schedule and people were asking for more classes and I was like, I don't know what to do. I can't divide myself in many more of me and there's only so many hours in a day. So I think the pandemic helped this become because during the pandemic, I had to teach through Zoom, and it became a really helpful tool. It wasn't ideal. It was hard at first. It was very, very draining and tiring. I was like, I hate it. I don't want to do this anymore. And I stopped teaching through Zoom because it was very, very hard. And I don't know what happened. Maybe time again taught me that no, it is a good tool because people from everywhere can be there, and you can reach even more people than what you're reaching right now. So just about 2 months ago, I launched my platform, Yoga with Mel, and I've spent months recording classes and introductions, explanations about yoga and the philosophy. And so they're classes for all levels, from beginners to advanced. And there's different types of yoga. I have vinyasa yoga, yin yoga, restorative yoga, rocket yoga, ashtanga. So there are many different types of classes, and anyone can start it, anyone can try it. And I think it's not only about yoga. I started with the yoga because that was easier. And what I'm trying to do is make a platform or create a platform that incorporates my lifestyle. And it's not only yoga, it's all about creativity and personal growth, breath, yoga and physical, but a way of being.
Yes, and that's why you call it Mel's Art of Living.
Yeah.
That's a very beautiful name, and I
Thank
think it's very strong, and it's something that probably people. There are many people around the world. I was one of them who don't pay enough attention to the art of living. It seems like it's the lost art of living. What do you think about that? I mean, how can you what would you say to folks who are getting interested, who are feeling that in their body that it's a calling towards better living?
Yes. So we're focused, or the world is focused on doing, doing, and we forget to live and enjoy. And I just came across this new, it's not new, but now I have a better word for it. It's savoring. And when you get to savor every moment, you really get to live and enjoy, and you're in the now, having pleasure, happiness, sadness, all of the emotions, but you're owning them instead of them owning you, and you just like are looking towards the finish line. No, you're enjoying the moment, and that's part of the art of living, finding the joy in everything, even if it's not what you were expecting. Or even better, no expectations and just go with what comes.
Yeah, so that's something that is important for those of us who need a plan, who have become trapped by our thinking into this kind of we need this and these are necessities, but in reality for living we don't need that. And it seems like this training that you can get from Mel's platform is about dropping expectations, or dropping expectations that don't work for us anymore. What do you think about the experience that people who join the platform go through? What's
Okay.
their journey?
I think many of them are scared, but very curious. And what I like about the way I've connected better to everything I do is exploring. So I don't have like something that this is how it's going to be or this is how it's going to go. It's going to go depending on what you need, how you feel, what you're curious about. So if you're curious, then text me and then we'll see where we go from there. But what is important for me is to wake up that creativity that lives inside everyone, and we forget it most of the times. On doing, we forget that we are creative beings, and creation is what brings passion and meaning to life. So I try to waken that part up. Let's be creative, in any way that creativity flows into you.
Do you have any stories of people who have gone through that kind of journey, like without naming any names, of people who started with the classic "I'm not creative," and now they can self expression and do the work in ways that even surprise themselves?
I think everyone, including me. Yes, it's like we see that white canvas that's our life, and we are very scared of spoiling it, so we prefer not to touch it. And the beautiful part of the art of living is that nothing is ruined because everything can be layered into something that will transform into something better. So it's about making a mess, and trying different ways. Usually, what works most is just closing your eyes or using your non dominant hand. If you're making music, it's just like play the instruments. Maybe at first you're just trying to see how they sound, and then how they feel, and then how they make you move. And you get a piece of art that you were not expecting because you are not thinking about what you should be doing, but what you're feeling guides the movement, the thought, the colors, the taste.
That's a beautiful thing, to give yourself permission to make a mess. Sometimes those of us with a strong inner critic have a hard time doing that. And also allow your body to take over, over your mind. What you were saying there makes me think about this kind of body first practice. Is that how you see it?
Yes. Yes and no. Sometimes it starts with the body and the movement. Sometimes it starts with the mind and we bring it into the body. But as I said, there's not only one right way. There's infinite ways. So it's about exploring the moment, and it might be for you today we do it through movement, or we start through movement, but maybe tomorrow we start through stillness or thought, getting in contact with our thoughts and what they're making you feel, making you do.
Yes, and that's being in the present moment.
Yes.
Yes. How do you help people to be in that present moment? How do you help your students arrive?
And that's a hard one because it's hard for me too. So I teach from what I've learned. And if you try to avoid everything that's in your mind, it's just going to be on the back of your mind, like poking and saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. So it's like a little child. You have to notice it and pay attention to it. So it's not about let's get rid of it. It's about what do you need from me? How can I be there for you? And how can I keep or make you calm, bring calmness to you? Because when you calm that down, then it's not going to be there stressing you out or poking you or screaming out, hey, I'm here. And so it's about listening to that part of you instead of ignoring it.
And learning to listen to that part of you, it's important because it appears not only when you're doing yoga or art, it appears when you're making important decisions. It appears when you're with people you don't know very well and you want to make a good impression with. So it's important to develop that in you.
And like you said, sometimes maybe you need to be focused and be on the now. And there's this poking little child inside of you. So breath, that's my next go-to. It's okay, let's take a deep breath, exhale slowly, and say to that little child that's poking you, I'll be with you right in a minute. Right now I need to be here. So let's breathe together, and then we'll get into what you need to get into. But right now I need to be here.
Yes, that's breath work. What kind of breath work do you teach?
Pranayama, I have a lot of practice of pranayama from yoga. Wim Hofman has also helped me. And I've been in a couple of breathwork classes. They usually do Wim Hofman. So that those are the ones I use.
Yes, and that's very good because, as you said before, a lot of people need to, well, everybody needs to customize what their state of mind is. Sometimes you need to up regulate, sometimes you need to down regulate.
Mm-hmm.
So, having a variety of breathwork practices can help you manage your mental state.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you study flow, you call it the individual zone of optimal functioning.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it needs you to be pushed more. You need a little bit more stress when
Mm-hmm.
you're too bored,
Yeah.
or you need a little less stress when you're overwhelmed or burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
So having those tricks in the bag are very,
Very
very
useful.
useful. Apart from breath work, I'm really intrigued with the kind of therapies that you do, the art therapy,
Mm-hmm.
like journaling. Your journaling is very artistic. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes. I've always been very creative, and actually, art journaling is not something I've been doing always. It's kind of new, and it came like a breakthrough for me. It was amazing when I started practicing it, and I had to make it part of my work also. So it's all about writing and creating with what you write, or maybe just creating and then having some important message come to you from what you created. And it's mixed media usually, so you use very like different types of mediums to create, and you go layering it. It's all about the layers because layers transform. And I usually start by doing a meditation and then connecting with thoughts, feelings, breath. From there, maybe journal a little. And from what you get from the journal, then we extract the important parts and create art from those important parts. It can be abstract or it can be not abstract. It depends on the person that's creating, and it's very intuitive. And again, we're not looking for perfection, and it's not the end product is not our meta, our goal. The goal is to focus on the process because the process is the healing part and the one that will give you the magic to heal, the magic to transform.
Yeah, I find it funny that when we switched to Spanish there, you went to meta. And what you were saying is that the process is the meta goal, you know, because what you really want is to learn to do it over and over again. And then
Mm-hmm.
the outcomes will arrive and will emerge as a consequence of
Mm-hmm.
doing the process, but that shouldn't be your focus.
Yes.
So yeah, that's very. I found it very good when you taught something where there was a spiral
Uh-huh.
and a cycle.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that, but in
I'm
any
not
case, I
sure.
mean, with journaling, something that
Mm-hmm.
is very intriguing and interesting for people is that if you don't have like written down your intentions and your
Mm-hmm.
purpose in life and your mission, journaling allows you to explore
Yeah.
those parts of you.
Yes. And we as humans are always worried about what's our purpose, what's our meaning. And part of journaling, or what it has taught me, is that there's not only one meaning or one purpose, and that it will change throughout your life depending on the moment you're in. So it's about exploring what you're, again, being in the now, what you're being called to do right now. And it doesn't have to be a big, huge thing. We are always thinking or have those expectations that it has to be something really big. It can be very tiny, like a grain of sand makes a big difference. So accepting that, acknowledging it, and falling in love with the process of maybe it's just a grain of sand, but that grain of sand will make a difference and will bring that meaning and that purpose to my life.
Yes, it could be the grain of sand that sustains a lot of people. So you never have to look at it as a small thing. You have to. What were you saying before? You have to admire it.
Admire it, accept it, acknowledge it.
Yes, and be in awe of it. You have a purpose. You have to wonder. It has to make you feel bigger. No. Yes, and that's why I think it's also very important for us to make space for self-expression and to make these artistic moves, even if you're not an artist, and most especially if you're not an artist. What do you say to people who have that kind of feeling that there's something inside me, but I don't know how to channel it, how to express it?
Let's try and make it happen. And sometimes it's even easier for people that are not artists because they don't have that rigid knowledge about what they should be doing. So it's sometimes more free and more intuitive, and explore it in different ways. Okay, let's try it through writing. Let's try it through arts and crafts. Let's try it through movement. Let's try it through experiences. It doesn't have to be one thing. And maybe this one thing works for me, but it won't work for you. So it's about exploring what works for you. And one of the exercises I usually do is, okay, let's take a look at the four most important areas of your life. That's work, love, play, and health. And let's see how you're doing in each one of them. And usually you find when you finish the exercise, you find what you like to do. Where's the, where you're missing balance. And from there, you can explore creative ways to bring it back to balance and to realign with your purpose in that moment.
When you talked about balance and alignment with goals, it brought me back to seeing you doing handstands and all these beautiful poses. So it seems, again, it seems like there's very much coherence in what you're doing. So there's yoga in the art and art in the yoga.
Yes, and that's what I'm aiming for. It's been very challenging getting it all together and make it seem like one, because yoga, psychology, art, they can be very different. And for me, it's been all of it that made me feel better and made me want to get up in the mornings and do stuff and help people. So I want to make it a whole package to gift to the world, and maybe many other people can find that same safety, grounding, loving energy that I've found in it.
And have you received any feedback from somebody who's a student and who has made any of these kinds of realizations and eureka moments?
I'm lucky to have many of my students come to me and say that they've fallen in love with the process, that they want to keep on doing it, that it became part of their lifestyle. And I don't like people to depend on me. So I try to teach everything I teach so that anyone can do it anytime, anywhere, with or without me. And I know that many of the students I've had keep on doing it and show me their work and show me how they've advanced and evolved. So I'm very lucky and happy and honored to be able to see all of that.
Yeah, it must be very gratifying.
Yes.
And a reason to have a gratitude practice.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
What would you say to somebody who doesn't have a gratitude practice, who doesn't know about it? It's the first time they hear the term.
What would I say to them? Try it out because it will change your life. You don't have to make it part of your life forever, but try it out for a few weeks and see if it helps.
Don't be dependent on it, but
Right now I teach a course that's called The Science of Happiness. And one of the exercises like every week they get a new exercise they have to practice during the week. And one of them was gratitude. So we talked about how gratitude helps, from where it comes from, and how can you practice it. And I think it was one of the practices that gave them more, like a more eye-opening practice. So I think it's really important to try it out.
I, I think something that we've been talking about, that we're particularly mentioning here, is the word practice. That all of these things are practices, and it's a word that gives you a lot of permission. You're just practicing. You're not performing in front of the crowd. You're doing it in order to get better. Uh, what what do you think informs your practice or makes your practice more motivating, or more uh, energizing, or more of a growing kind of practice, and not just something that you do as a discipline or as a routine?
I think that depends on each person, but for me personally, is trying different things and continuous learning. I love to learn. Every day I try to learn something new or a different way to do something I already know, and that keeps it interesting and makes me get better at it, because then I find different ways to keep doing what has already made a difference and made me better. So I think that's important point for me. But I know there are people that have to do the same thing every day, and that's what makes the practice for them important. So I think it depends.
How do you know after a practice session, or a teaching session, or a recording, or whatever it is that you're doing, that you have learned something? How do you assimilate and internalize those learnings?
I've never thought of it. If I can teach it, I know it.
Yes, and if you're studying it, then you internalize it some way, or is it just the practice that makes you feel like you're better than you were before, or improving, or even something that's even more difficult, unlearning? You're letting stuff go.
Mm-hmm.
Have you experienced that?
Yes. Letting go is not easy. It's been the hardest thing, actually. And for letting go, time is the secret. It won't happen during the night. So it takes patience and time and rewiring your brain, creating new networks, new, better networks that allow for that change. And again, it's the repetition of that new habit or new idea that you want to bring into your life. And repetition again takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. So it's like a circle. It all comes back into the first, and the first into the last.
Time, practice, patience,
Mm-hmm.
and the dropping expectations.
Compassion.
Yes, compassion. That's a beautiful word. What do you mean when you say compassion?
Compassion is empathy plus action. I can feel I am here, but I'm not staying in that feeling. I'm doing something to make it better. So for me, compassion is okay. It's fine to feel that way. You're allowed to feel that way. We can stay here for the time you need, and I'll stay with you, but we can do something more. We don't have to stay here. So how can we make it better? And that's compassion for me.
Yes, and there's a big need in the world for more compassion,
Mm-hmm.
even in places that it's not expected,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's not expected, right?
Yes.
And as you were saying before, I mean, there was the inner voice,
Mm-hmm.
how to treat it with compassion so that it has a little
Mm-hmm.
place.
Exactly.
Yes. How do you work on your self compassion?
My self-compassion. I think that wasn't hard for me. I'm very loving. I try to I'm very loving. I'm very strict also, but very forgiving. So forgiveness was key for me. Yes. And when I say forgive, I don't mean forget. It's very hard for me to forget. And yes, my guards go up, but I forgive and then I work it out. So yes, forgiveness is important.
A way to make space for other people?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe it helps me change gears a bit now because in yoga, something that is very important
Mm-hmm.
is having a community, community of students, community of teachers.
Mm-hmm.
You would experience that, and now with the digital platform, how do you work on that, and how you contrast it with the physical experience of having a community, and also how do you work on having a digital community?
Still working on it. It's hard. It's very hard, and I don't like to be on my phone all the time, but having a platform and a community demands that from me. So it's again, I'm trying to figure it out and make time for everything, but also keep that time for me, the time I need for me, so that I can keep sharing it. I don't know how to do it yet, but I'm learning.
What are the best parts of the personal community or a real life community that you would love to take to the digital community?
The sharing and the caring. So when it's digital, the class ends and everyone, they're on their own. When it's, with everyone in the room, there's like more connection. And I wish I could bring that connection to the digital part.
A lot of the best lessons I've learned in yoga were from other students that taught me.
Mm-hmm.
So that interaction is something that is very, very valuable.
Yes.
And about the digital platform, how can people, if I'm listening to this podcast
Mm-hmm.
and I want to join, tell me what should I do? Where can I find you?
You can find, well, social media, Instagram, Mel's Art of Living. I have the link on my bio, and there's Yoga with Mel. There's the art part. I'm trying to make it all together, but also Mel's Art of Living.life and Mel's Art of Living.teachable. That will take you directly to the yoga platform.
And if how has this process been? I mean, how has this process of creating a digital being a digital product been for you? I mean, it's new, it's nerve wracking, it's easy. How have you been experiencing it?
It's also a build up process. It was very difficult at first, and trying to edit voiceover and then upload it. Too big, it won't upload. It takes forever, and I have 10 videos in my phone, and my phone doesn't have any more space. So it was frustrating also. But it's a learning curve. You get to the worst part and you're very frustrated and just like, okay, this is not gonna work. And then something happens and it starts working, or you find, like, I tried different platforms to see which one worked better, and I launched it and it didn't work with that platform, so I had to relaunch, and it's trial and error.
And you did it on your own?
Yes.
Yes, wow. Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's not easy.
No, it's not. Yeah, it takes a lot of time.
So most of the problems were technical, not necessarily with the content.
Yes, technical. Content, I think it overflows. Sometimes I have so many ideas. I wish I had more time to be able to execute them.
Yes, and a lot of people have a lot of ideas and they're not sharing them. How would you encourage somebody to take that step and gather their ideas and then make it usable by other people?
Okay, don't think about making it perfect. Don't wait until everything's ready. Start with what you have, even if it's just a pebble. Because if we wait until we have everything, that momentum and that passion probably will dissipate. So use the momentum and the passion and the creativity that you have right now. Create what you can and evolve from that. Don't wait.
Yes, be the creator.
Yes.
And creators ship.
Do
No,
it.
creators deliver.
Yes.
Yes, no, it's beautiful because not being perfect is how you have allowed yourself to shine through it. You know, it seems like it's more important to be authentic and to be yourself than to try and make the best thing in the world.
Yes.
Yes, yes, and you will learn from the process.
Mm,
Yes, okay.
definitely.
Those are learnings for myself. Yes, thank you very much, Melanie.
You're welcome.
Let me ask you about the the yoga classes because something
Mhm.
that you said is that you have many different styles of yoga.
Mhm.
How how do I pick my yoga style? How do I know
Trying them.
what will work?
So, yes, I think trying different styles, that's the best way. Every style has its magic. Like Ashtanga is very rigid and it's the same series over and over and over, and you get better because you repeat it and you repeat it and repeat it. Then we have Rocket Yoga. It's based on the Ashtanga series, but it's more creative and it focuses more on strength and getting to the poses faster. So if you're very eager to get to the poses, maybe Rocket Yoga is good for you. If you want something more soft, more with time and different every time you try it, Vinyasa. If you want a restorative and yin. So it depends. And you don't have to stay just with one class of yoga. You can try, and depending on the day, on the week, which one you practice.
Yes, and in the platform you can try them all out.
Yes.
You don't need.
And you have 3 days, 3 free days to try it out to see if you like it.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
Yeah.
The taster.
Yes. See if you like it, then stay.
You can try the entire platform out for 3 days.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just a few lessons that were.
No,
Oh,
it's
wow,
all open.
That's very generous.
Thank you.
Yes.
And every month I upload new classes, new insights, new drills, and different like messages and information that might work or help you progress in your practice.
Yes, it never stops.
No, it never stops.
And one thing that probably is very good for that is that you can come back.
Yes.
You can come back to more basic, because, like, for example, people like who have been injured or who have been, like fall to an illness or something like that. It's sometimes you need to come back
to basics.
To basics, yes.
Yes.
And you say that you explain. You have some videos doing explanations of the practice.
Yeah, so I have a part that's called Intro to Yoga, and here I talk about the breath. It's called Trishtana, like the 3 most important parts of the yoga practice, and I have how to do a sun salutation, basic poses, standing poses, forward folds, how to practice them in a safe way, so that when you try out a class, you already know what we're talking about. It's not like you're going into, I don't know what this is, all the names. I also teach them in Sanskrit and in Spanish so that they have the idea of what is what.
Yes, and that's probably something that even people who go to classes in person with you, they should take a look at those videos because, I mean, I remember the first time you just go in, you just jump in. with no theory.
Yeah,
And the theory is very illuminating.
it is.
Something that I appreciated a lot was the drishti.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that? Because it relates to focus, but it's...
Yes. So the drishti is where we have to look at. It's a point in our vision that we have to stare at. And it changes depending on the pose. And the drishti helps you to stay focused, to stay in the present moment. If your eyes start to move around, you're probably thinking about what you have to do next, how it's hurting, what you need to do better. But if you're focused in one point, then it's like a meditation also. You are staying in the pose, you're staying in the now, you're staying connected with your breath and with your body. And that's part of the drishti. And it's three of them: drishti, breath, and asana, the posture. So it's like a triangle. They hold each other together and keep you present in the class.
And that's something that you learn as you do, but it's also good to think about in order to keep your mind in the present moment and your thoughts.
And I said asana, but it's bandha. Sorry, it's that energetic lock from, you can say, the chakras or the energetic points in your body that will help you hold the posture.
Yes, that's the trick behind a lot of the postures that you do, right?
Yes.
For handstands and for peacock and all these.
And the interesting part is you engage them with breath. And that's what I learned. That's like one of the aha moments, connecting the breath to the bandha, and then both of them will bring you to the pose. Because before I was like, okay, jump, breathe, do. But when you learn that the out breath activates mula bandha, that's the root or the lowest bandha, then you float easier. You're not so heavy. And that's what you need to use when you're when you're floating up into a handstand. It's the out breath. And they teach you have to do it on an inhale, but you do it on an inhale when you jump. So it's like really gathering and understanding where the breath goes and how it goes. And it's like a puzzle.
Yes, the puzzle, but the result is harmony, right? Everything just clicks into place. Yeah, so you have to know and you have to practice and you have to become to get there, right?
Yes.
Yes, it's beautiful because when I see, now that you have told me that, when I see, for example, when I see your social media and I see you doing these poses, I will know that you are exhaling.
I'm exhaling,
Probably...
activating, and then you inhale for the impulse. But you have to be light, you have to be compact, you have to be active. Out breath activates your sympathetic nervous system. And that's like adrenaline, right? It holds it all together, it makes you act. And then you inhale, you relax, and you help impulse that last part of it.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
Yes. Something that I wanted to ask you also about was, let me see, it was about sitting. A lot of us spend a lot of time sitting down, or worse, crunched over our phones, making the C shape with our backs. So there's a bit of an epidemic of people who suffer from back pain or muscle pain or bone pain, whatever you would call it. I'm not a doctor. But how does yoga or even art practice or music therapy help us release ourselves from those bad habits?
So different ideas I have in mind. Art and everything that's creative reduces cortisol, and that's the stress hormone. So every time you're doing something creative, you're getting rid of all that cortisol you usually build up in your body. And that will help alleviate inflammation and tension. That's what makes you hurt, right? And then movement. I always say this in my yoga classes, and I think it's one of the most important parts. Your back or your backbone, how do you say, like all your vertebrae, they have this spongy part in between all of them, right? And when you're very young, all the blood vessels and irrigation, it's direct. It goes direct into your back. After 20 years, when you're 20, about 20, around there, it's not direct. It gets nutrients and blood flow through movement. So if you're sitting down all day, there is no movement, there is no irrigation to your back. And simple movements like torsions or side stretches, that will bring nutrients back into your back and make it more flexible and not like sedimentado. So yes. And it doesn't have to take long. It can be 3 minutes of just holding maybe 10 breaths each side and then stretching, holding 10 breaths each side. And that's good. So if you've been sitting down for a long time, move around the chair.
Probably the best option is to stand up.
And stand up.
But if you don't have the time, at least you can do a little.
Or sit on the floor or lay on the floor. Yes.
That's one of the best parts of working from home, right? You can lay on the floor and nobody notices. Yes, the world has changed, as you said before, from the pandemic.
It has.
So that's why also we're trying to use it as a way to reach a global audience. So people who have not heard about Mel's Art of Living before, I expect them to hear from this podcast. What would you say to people who would be interested, who would learn about you?
It would be my honor and a pleasure to explore creativity and the art of living, your art of living, so that you can live the life you dream of.
Yes, I would encourage people to actually take that invitation from Mel to join her platform, at least to explore it, because we all need to learn more about the art of living to increase our quotient of aliveness and to see that it's also supported by a lot of science, as she was talking about today. So thank you very much, Melanie. It's an honor to have you in this podcast. I'm really very happy that you accepted my invitation. And it's also very important for us that we are here in the podcast house, who is our biggest sponsor. And I'm really happy with this interview. I hope I learned a lot. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yes, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. And I am very grateful to be here and to have had that invitation. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. See you next time.
Namaste.
Namaste.